Hey Leah, what are we unwrapping today?
Let's see. Midnight Run. Well, how was that line reading? Did that feel natural, or do
Felt
I need to
natural
do
to
it
me. I
again?
got captivated and lost my mark.
We needed a reaction from Michael that we were gonna that she was gonna finally actually see this movie.
I'm thrilled that Leah is finally watching the movie, right? The whole premise of this podcast, right, is to get Leah to watch films that I think are brilliant.
It's great.
So,
We should
and we're
always that
starting.
should be the energy at every time Leah announces what movies unwrapped. And I'd be like, yeah, that's the whole reason why we're here.
And
Why are
every
we
time I have to be
surprised
like,
that this?
"Ooh,
Right, we're creating a podcast so Leah will watch these great films.
yes, this is the only way you'll get me to do it."
Yeah, so before we get your immediate reaction, Patrick did have a great question, right? Were you at all aware of this film? Like, do you have any did you see the I remember when I was a kid, right? Like the box in the video store was massive. The video store box actually was very different than the movie's poster. And I always found the box compelling when I would see it at the library or at the video store until I was finally old enough to be able to rent it and watch it myself. But do you have any history of awareness of the film, or was it just like I gifted it to you and you thought, what is this?
Exactly. I have absolutely no recollection of this movie existing before I received it in the mail, probably about 10 years ago. And yeah, when I saw when I looked at I guess I hadn't really looked at it closely, like the DVD, and then when I looked at it again yesterday, I had to like get it out of my attic. It was in some box of like the movies Michael has gifted me to make sure that like they stay safe. Um, and so yeah, I was like, oh, Charles Grodin is in this. Had no recollection of that too, so that got me more interested in seeing it. I was like, okay, Robert De Niro, Charles Grodin, like this is good. I asked my mom about it. She was like, oh yeah, that was pretty funny. So yeah, I got some good feedback, so I was ready to go.
So wait, just to be clear, did I get you the DVD or the Blu-ray?
You got me the DVD.
So wow, so this really was probably at least 10 years ago because
Yeah, it could have
the
been.
Blu-ray didn't come out till 2016. So I thought it was that important that I
Hmm.
hated buying DVDs at any moment in time.
Yeah, this
So I
could have been
bought
an
you.
early
Yeah,
gifting.
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So this was a great film to start the podcast with because this is one of the
Hmm.
first gifts I ever got
Probably.
Leah over the course of a decade plus of
Hmm.
sending Leah multiple movies annually for the trifecta of her birthday, Hanukkah, and Christmas, right? All in December,
True.
all at one point in time. A box comes with several movies to celebrate all three, and
Okay,
all of
what
which is induced in Stalia.
what year
Oh,
did you
thank
start
you.
this?
Um,
I don't know.
I mean, it had to be when I was living in Manhattan when we lived a few blocks from each
Probably.
other, right?
Yeah. When
So,
was
right,
that you were living there?
I moved August 2013, August 22nd, 2013. It was the day Ben Affleck was announced to play
You
Batman
remember
in
this.
the
Remember that day.
Snyderverse.
Remember that day.
Well, because I spent about 8 hours cleaning out our apartment on the Upper West Side. We moved in and the person left all this nasty stuff. It was wretched. It was just like the most wretched condition someone can leave
Oh my God.
an apartment in, and I just scrubbed for hours upon hours. Finally got the entire place set up by like 2 o'clock in the morning. Opened up my phone to check out movie news, and it was that they weren't going to continue keeping Bale as Batman, and instead they were going to offer it to Affleck. Now, in retrospect, I have Affleck's Batman in some of those Snyder films. I find minorly charming, even though I find them charming, even though they drive me insane. I find it humorous, the so much of it. But at the time, I was very upset, and I threw my phone across the room, and
Wow.
I was just like, I
Wasn't there
kind of
just one movie? There were more than one with him in it?
multiples. He did. I mean, there were two where he played a vital role. So he was in Batman versus Superman, then he was in Justice League, and then he was in Snyder's cut of Justice League, and then he had cameo roles in Suicide Squad and The Flash, and was that it? Those are the only cameos? Suicide Squad, The Flash. That may have been it. I'm forgetting them. Those movies, sorry, they kind of just they go away from my mind.
Yeah.
Except for I really like the Snyder cut, and Batman versus Superman is hysterical.
Well,
There,
and wasn't Jesse Eisenberg in one of those
yeah, he
too?
was Lex Luthor in Batman versus
Right.
Superman,
Those movies
That was, yeah.
are
playing
horrific.
Mark Zuckerberg as Lex Luthor.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can see that.
Which little did we know then, but quite more than accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those movies are horrible. Like those would not be movies
Yeah,
that you
haven't seen any
unwrap.
of those.
The
Right.
only way, the only way that you would we would have an unwrapped episode for any of the Zack Snyder films would be if our Olipop endorsements fell through and we had to
He
really.
has a cameo. He has a cameo in he has a cameo in Wonder Woman as voiceover. Like it bookends with Bruce Wayne sending her
Okay.
a photo.
Does that mean I'm gonna
Uh,
have to watch all of these as a
No,
no,
precursor?
as a precursor to Wonder
Okay.
Woman, no. Spoiler, we'll do Wonder
Okay.
Woman at some point.
it's
Okay.
honestly the worst part of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it folds. One often forgets it's part of the film, but nothing can make that film bad. It's just that movie rules. Patty Jenkins rolls and that movie rules. And
Oh yeah, I
anyway,
forgot she directed that. Okay, now it makes sense why you sent that to me.
okay, so what are your I mean, I just want to be very clear. I love Midnight Run. I watch that film, I get emotional watching that film. There are moments where a tear may fall stream down the right side of
Okay,
my
I want to
face.
know what scene that is after we get into it.
So what were your what were your thoughts,
So it
Leah?
makes complete sense to me after seeing it why you sent this to me and why you feel that way because I feel like it's all about morality. Like I was really surprised by the way it sort of played out. Like I just didn't know where it was going at all and just the fact that these two characters were really like the good guys, like they were doing the right thing and standing up for themselves like all right, well this is Michael's whole MO. So, it makes sense why he sent it to me. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really like a fun old school comedy that you don't see anymore that like I miss, those kinds of movies that it's just nice to watch and they're actually funny. Like I actually laughed out loud a couple times, which is very rare when I watch movies. But then it actually had something to say, and it's like these characters you actually respect to a certain degree. I mean, they make mistakes, but yeah. So I thought like it made sense. I enjoyed it. I wasn't bored or annoyed. Yeah, that's my quick summary.
So for to make my brother feel a little bit at ease, Patrick, we will say that right, the film we're discussing is 1988's Midnight Run, the Martin Brest feature. It is Brest's follow-up to Beverly Hills Cop, starring Robert De Niro, Charles Grodin, an amazing array of character actors, right, playing brilliant supporting roles. Yaphet Kotto, Dennis Farina, one of Dennis Farina's earlier
Hmm.
films, right? Philip Baker Hall,
Yeah, I loved seeing
Joey
all those side
Pants.
characters.
Yep. No,
Yeah,
it's
that was
like
fun.
everyone is fantastic in it. And I mean, just from like from the moment the film starts, like it is, I love the music, I love the way it's shot, right? I love, first of all, De Niro at this time, right, in his career, right, this is the role where he gets to be funny, he gets to be somewhat of a hero, right? He is so handsome in this movie.
He
He
did have
is.
really good hair. I noticed his hair in comparison to Charles Grodin. I was like, oh yeah, Charles Grodin has kind of like not great hair, but Robert De Niro looked good. He looked good.
He did. It is, I mean, the movie is Looney Tunes, right? I mean, how many times, first of all, you punch someone in the face, very rarely do they get knocked out. Everyone gets hit once and they immediately get knocked out. It is amazing.
True.
The amount of times people are saying are swearing nonstop, and none of it seems raw or wrong. Like just like nonstop. It is, I should have counted the fucks in this movie.
Oh, 120.
God.
I counted it. That's the only thing I'm going to remember from the movies.
Are you
120.
serious? You did not count.
Did you really?
Mhm.
Oh,
I can show you my tally.
no, you did.
Yeah.
That would
Somebody
have been
Google it.
that would have
Oh
been
my God.
that would have been amazing. And even the small character actors, like the cop who he goes to see to get the address early on, like just
Mhm.
the mustache, the guy's mullet, like just everyone in this film. And just like in Beverly Hills Cop, like again, like Breast, like just using like there's a real atmosphere that's created. And it is so wonderful. And Leo, you were saying like what moment when he goes to visit his daughter, like when he looks at her, like
No.
everyone's reaction to that scene when they're arguing and she
Hmm.
walks into the kitchen and he looks at her and he looks at the wife. You don't get to see the
Yeah.
wife's face, right? But you see her put her hand to her mouth, like you get to see her, right? Everything calms down, everything gets quiet, and you just feel for this guy, like
Yeah,
this
it's true.
this
That scene
loser.
was, yeah, the daughter, the way there was that quiet with the daughter just looking at him, like she was really good and it did have an impact. Like you really feel like, yeah, he did some damage here. So he doesn't get like a pass. I mean, they all have, certain faults, but ultimately they're in the place they are in because they've done the right thing at some point.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying before. That's really where you understand the morality of like the characters, the fact that that when the daughter's about to like, try to give him whatever
Yeah.
$180, and he's like, I can't,
Yeah, that was
and
heartbreaking.
that's where Michael drops his one tear, and the rest of us actually emote. Um, but it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, and it tells you both points that like this guy did some damage, and at the same time, he's a deeply moral person.
Yeah. And that he wouldn't take the money. His whole
Yeah.
backstory with the police, just that he couldn't do it. He couldn't get on the payrolls, he said, with the cartel or the gang or whatever it was. With
Organized
other
crime.
yeah, exactly. Other police officers were just fine with it, which is really the story you hear more often, that, he's basically exiled after that. So of course then you're on his side and you're like, okay, this guy's not bad. And Charles Grodin like took from the rich to give to the poor and the whole thing. So it all works out. They're not bad guys after all.
No, amazing, right?
Yeah.
Even I mean, yeah, I mean the one, right? You have the one bad guy, Farina. No one has lines like Farina in this film. Like let's see, Sid, why don't you sit down, and have a milkshake or something, right?
No,
What
no,
does he
no,
say?
no. Sid, have a sandwich or a glass of
Or a
milk.
glass of milk
Do
Yeah.
some fucking thing.
or
Oh
some
my
fucking
God.
thing, right? Um, and what does he say? Shut up before I stab you in the heart with a pencil.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, that was a good line. Oh,
Amazing. Like who wrote this? I can't remember
right.
who
A
wrote it.
couple. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It wasn't
George
shut up before I
Gallo.
stab you in the pen with the pencil. He was on when he was on the phone with them. He's like, if I hear, did he say like if I hear from you again or something, or if you say that again, I'll stab you through the pencil. Sid is when he said it to
Yeah,
Dummy
he
one.
doesn't say he doesn't say it to Sid. He says
Yeah.
it to the two mafiosos.
Sid, he says like, if you open your mouth again, I'll beat you to. I'll flatten your head with this phone or something like that.
I don't want to see either of you two alive again. I don't want to
Oh
see
yeah.
either of you two alive again. If they're dead, fine.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great.
And he's scary too. Like that scene in
Hmm.
the limo, right? Which if Eugene had finished the film, he would have seen, right, where he slaps him and he's like, after I kill you, I'm gonna go home, have a hot meal, and then I'm gonna go kill your wife. Like he scares
Yeah.
me. Like I'm like, okay, all right.
Oh,
And
I
You
saw
so
got
that
to
part.
almost the end.
yeah, almost. Did you
Yeah.
see the whole scene at the airport?
No, I'm in the middle of that scene. He just started the FBI agent started freaking out that he
Got it,
wasn't
got it.
giving the
That
files
and it like
over.
the culmination of it. I mean, the first time I saw it, I remember where I was watching it on VHS, sitting like laying on my sofa, right, in my parents' house, right, when that scene happens. And I remember like it's like 5 seconds when the music rises, right? The mic's cut off and he's waving. He's got the disc. You got the discs. And I am like my heart is like beating. Like it does a brilliant job of culminating into that final
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah, you really want him to be heard. I was like, okay, say it louder. Like I really got into it. Make sure they hear you. Get him. But yeah, no, it was very compelling.
Speaking to the microphone, Marvin's line, when every time he hits when he when he hits the guys with this movie has the most amazing one-liners when he hits the one of the mafiosos with the butt of his rifle, right? And why don't you speak into the
Oh
microphone?
yeah.
I was gonna say my first favorite line in the movie is get me what's his now get me Marvin. What's Marvin's last name?
Dorfler,
Doofler. Give me Marvin
Right.
Doofler. It's under D for jerk.
Oh my God.
right in the
Yeah.
Rolodesk.
Oh my
Oh
God.
man,
Yeah,
no
Joe
one does,
Pantoliano.
no one does mullet that better than Joey Pants. Just
Oh
perfect,
God. I know I was waiting
perfect
for some
cast.
other Sopranos side characters to come in.
Gosh, he was perfect.
Yeah. No, he really was perfect. And even that other guy in the office who, is like whatever, talking to the
Yes,
FBI or
Serpico,
whatever.
right? He was one of the
Was
dirty cops
he?
in Serp. I think he was one of
Oh,
the dirty
okay.
cops in
So that's
Serpico.
his trademark, I
I'm gonna
guess.
go. I'm gonna go
But
back
yeah,
and
he was
check that
funny.
out.
Yeah, always getting the donuts. I gotta go
Yep,
get some more
Jack
donuts.
Cahoe. I'm saying his name wrong.
Hmm.
And this
Yep,
Okay.
Serpico, one of the dirty cops in Serpico.
Hmm.
Oh, and right, I forgot, and he's in the Sting too. He plays one of the young guys in The Sting.
That is another movie I've never seen.
Oh, this thing is so good. It really is.
Is it?
Is
Okay.
it?
I mean, is it? It's good, but is it?
It is.
Is
No,
it
no,
so
it is so good. Wow. Well, I mean,
You
you're
can
on
add it to
camera
the
saying that.
list at some point if you wanted. I don't even know what the Sting is. I mean, I've heard of it, but like what era, who's in it?
19 it's Redford and Newman, right? George Roy
Oh,
Hill.
okay.
George Roy Hill directed it, right? It's like it was the 1-2 punch with he did that with them and he did Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with them. And it's
Okay.
just, it's a period piece. Robert Shaw plays the villain. I mean, so good. And it's basically, about con men. It's your prototypical con man film that came out in it won Best Picture in what, 75?
All
I
right.
gotta
Sounds
check
like
that
fun.
now.
I'd see it. I
It's
get it.
Redford and Newman doing their best Clooney and Pitt.
Oh, ooh, okay.
Oh, okay.
You're making friends everywhere on the 5 people that'll be listening to this. 73. It's 73.
Okay.
One Best Picture 73. I think
Well,
is that in between the two Godfather years? Let me see. Is it Godfather? Godfather wins in 72. Yeah, Godfather gets 72. Godfather gets 72, and then The Sting 73, and then Godfather 2, I believe, is 74.
okay. Well, let me know if you're going to add it to the list because otherwise I may see it. But I will wait if you want to.
I will. That's a good question. You can, if you see it, you can see it before before I
Okay.
add it to the list. And if
I
you
mean, it
haven't
probably won't
seen
be
it,
for
then
a
I'll add it to
while,
the
but
list.
it sounds like a fun movie that I will
Yeah,
probably watch.
it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. Don't let Patrick's eye roll confuse you.
I think we should like hold to the fidelity of the premise of the podcast, and Leah only knows if she could watch the movie if she unwraps it.
Okay. God.
I mean, the movie right away, right? Just it's like De Niro lives in an ashtray, right? Like the moment you see him, right? The way he's walking around,
Mm-hmm.
he's walking to get the guy, right? To collect him. He's a bounty hunter. He's looking around, even how he's tilting his head, right? At the doors, like immediately when the film starts, I'm all in. The music's
Mm-hmm.
playing, the Universal logo, old school Universal logo. He's walking up the stairs. He's looking around at each door. He sees the right one. Right, like, oh, what kind of De Niro is this? Like, who is De Niro being in this? Like the
Mm-hmm.
little moments on the plane when he's making the fake ID and he turns to the
Yeah.
kid, and the kid's
Yeah.
like, looks good to me. Amazing. Like,
The best De Niro move, which is not going to work well on the podcast, is when he's like on the payphone with Grodin and he's threatening to kill him, and he and he looks at and he does the head shake.
right,
Yeah.
he's on the phone with Joey Pants, and he's like, I will shoot him in the head and dump him in a river, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
Drop him in a ditch, and he turns to Grodin, right? And he shakes his head. It's amazing.
Yeah. Wait, there was one line, I forget. It was something where somebody's like basically attacking De Niro and said something like you're only ever silent or like rageful or something. What is that line? So I was watching,
two
what is
emotions,
it?
like, but it's not emotions. He's like, you have only
Silence and rage.
two
Right.
moods,
Yeah.
silence and rage.
Grodin on the train. On the train.
Yes, that's what it was. So I was watching it with my boyfriend and he literally stopped and just looked at me and said, "That's you." And I was like, and he's like, "And where's De Niro from?" "New York." And I was like, "All right, that's enough." But I was like, it's true. There's like some weird New York like intrinsic thing where it's like, there's just these two sides. It's like of the same coin. But yeah, that resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, that scene was amazing, and I do love it. I think this is probably a goof, but it doesn't work. It doesn't matter because it works perfectly. Where he's like eating the wings, and then all of a sudden, while he's having the conversation, he's eating Jello, and I'm like, is he just powering
Oh
through?
yeah. What was he eating? There was something white with like a little like red in it. And I kept thinking, yeah, what is he eating? It was like some meringue or something. Yeah, he's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, those details work really well.
Where they start in L.A. The stories in where does or is it Chicago? Where does it start?
Yeah, it was in
LA.
LA. We were talking about
Yeah.
that. We're like, where did they start? And then at some point they're like, we got to get back to LA. So yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
they
all
start in
these
LA.
like Brooklyn-based or like New York-based people that are like rooted in, right? Like Joey Pants and Eddie and De Niro are like they were supposed to believe that they're like just natural West Coasters.
It's
Works perfectly to me.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
guess
don't
in
care.
that era, maybe LA was a little grittier, so people were kind of, I don't know,
Right.
like
From
that.
right, it goes from right, starts in LA, goes to New York, right?
Right.
And I mean that's where they're based. Who knows where when he's where where he's getting the guy, where he's where the first guy who he arrests with Marvin, right, when they had that tango. You have no idea where that is. We just know it's a city somewhere, right? And then but like where they are, where Joey Pants is. That's in LA. That's where they work out of, right? Then he flies to New York to get the Duke, right? And then it's right, and then it's it's your typical cross country trip, right? It's a road
Hmm.
trip movie, right? When they're trying to get right back to LA.
Just a classic road trip buddy film.
Yeah, so why are you so against that idea, Michael? Because you got mad at Patrick last time when he described it that way.
When we were prepping for this, we were to the Michael was like, "This is not a buddy film," and I
Well,
really
because when I think of a buddy, I don't think of, when I think of buddy films, I'm thinking more like, I mean, I guess 48 Hours. I guess they call that a buddy. They would call that a buddy film. But I mean, I don't know. I thought this is something. This is more than that to me. That's all.
yeah,
It
but
is, but there's aspects of the buddy.
Of course, it's a buddy film. You're making a list of buddy
it
films,
is
right?
absolutely it's the most
You would throw
quintessential.
Midnight Run in there, but
Hmm.
it is a perfect film. I can't. There is not a piece in the film that I can point to and say I don't know about that. Maybe there's if I was gonna if I was if gun to head, the scene where De Niro takes out where he first when he says thanks for this too, where he takes out Yaphet Kotto's FBI badge, and then when he turns to the camera to pose, maybe I could do without turning to the camera to pose, right? But I also don't care, right? Like if I gun to head, that would maybe be something, but if it wasn't in the film, maybe I'd miss it.
I've heard I've heard from true cinephiles that you would not have Toy Story without Midnight Run.
And you're saying the first Toy
Oh,
Story is a buddy film?
Oh, absolutely. It is the buddy. Like people were saying before is there's considered like in film zeitgeist, like there's three buddy films that matter. There's The Sting, Toy Story, and Midnight Run. And I would argue you would not have Toy Story without Midnight Run.
Oh, maybe you wouldn't have Toy Story without Midnight Run. Hey, Toy Story, all three are masterpieces, unlike what you were saying earlier. And here's a quick question, Leah. Have you ever seen Toy Story?
I have. I think I saw it
Oh,
when it came out, but don't really remember it. Probably was just like, okay, I've got to see this because it's like a thing people are talking about. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely don't have the recollection that Patrick has about it.
well, I mean, Patrick and I probably we watch it all the time. Well, and I mean, one now that we have kids, it's on. There are a number of films that are on
Yeah.
rotation. In our house, all four Toy Stories are on rotation in our house relatively often. It's it's a great film just to put on in the background. If you for kids to just pay attention to, because of how smart and clever and just fantastic it is. And also my kids just love it. But even if
Hmm.
that weren't the case, I probably have seen it like insane amounts of time.
Yeah. I guess at the
Anyway,
time it was really original. Like I
yeah.
feel like I remember it being really different than anything that had come out before that was animated or I mean I guess that was the beginning of Pixar really.
Yep.
But then also just as an animated film it was pretty cool like using all these characters like those toys from, our childhoods and everything.
And it's yeah, I mean a really groundbreaking, revolutionary. And aside from the scene where Buzz drags Woody into like a local toy shop to assess the register for counterfeit 20s, it was completely original, you know?
My God. Speaking of that scene, I laughed out loud. That was one of my favorite scenes. And the guy sitting at the bar just did me in. Yeah, I loved that scene.
Yeah, well, the like even like the guys in that the guys who pick them up in the pickup truck when they're in the desert, and then
Hmm.
they go to that town where they get the plane. Grodin says a very I missed this like in the gazillion times I've seen the film, and this time I wrote it down. I showed Patrick, right, when they get picked up, right. So after there's the shootout with the helicopter, which I love that scene, right. That scene's amazing.
Hmm.
De Niro, right, getting, and also it's intense, right? You have the marksman in the helicopter, you have De Niro, right, lining the copter with the gun, right? So they're walking after all that excitement, right? They find a pickup truck that people give them a ride, and Grodin says, "For every shit, there are six nice people." I want that line on a
Mm,
t-shirt.
that is a good one. I love the cynicism of the characters in this movie. Like the movie isn't cynical, but I love that it's like it feels very natural to me. Like I believe these people exist and they're not just sugar coated. That's kind of why I liked A Real Pain too. Like I loved the Kieran Culkin character because he was really speaking truth to what it's like to live in this world. Like he's not covering it up with anything. He's just like it kind of sucks to be here and let's acknowledge it. Um but also living. Yeah, I just felt like the De Niro character was very refreshing, and I felt like he was well written in that way.
100% right. I mean, the world took him. I mean, the world took a major dump on that guy. Like seriously,
Hmm.
he did the right thing, right? And he lost, right? Right. And now he lives in a sewer, and we get to go on this journey with him, right? With someone else who did the right thing and
Hmm.
isn't, Grodin isn't resentful, right, of the decisions that he's made. And it's not that De Niro is resentful, but he's angry, right? Grodin
Hmm.
isn't hiding. He's on the run. He's fearful for his life. He has a family, right? So it's not just him, it's his wife too, if anything were to happen, right? De Niro's all by himself, right? And he is angry, and I would argue justifiably angry, right? But you
Hmm.
put him with someone, right, who, right, as Leah was saying earlier, who made the right decisions, right, and has been dumped on as well, but their entire perspective is different, and it
Hmm.
is like night and day. And you put these two people together, right, on a road trip, like, you know what? I mean, who would argue this isn't a buddy comedy, right? Two people who have similar trajectories but have different perspectives of it. I mean, who would
Hmm.
make that silly argument, Patrick?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, Grodin is almost like Zen in the way that he thinks about life. He's very, like when he talks about eating well and taking care of himself, it's not the way that you would see him, but I loved those scenes between the two of them because it was very like optimistic in a way. Like he really was living to his conscience. He was like sort of walking the walk. And he did the thing he did because he couldn't not do it. Like he was part of this system, and then he realized, like, oh shit, I'm actually on the wrong side. And then he changed course, and now he, like you said, he's not really afraid. He's afraid of getting caught, but he knows he doesn't have regret over what he did,
Yep.
which is admirable. Yeah.
100%. And he challenges De Niro, right? He says to De Niro, "Were you not on my side when you read about me in the paper?" First of all, I love
Mm-hmm.
so many times. Hey, I read the papers. Don't you read the
Yeah.
papers? I
Right.
read the
I love.
papers, right?
Yeah.
It makes me miss the papers.
I
Honestly,
know.
I want
It's
I want the
true.
papers, right?
Right, when people actually like knew things, when like
Yeah.
the ordinary person knew what was going on in the
You'd
world.
read,
Yeah.
dude, everybody would read a newspaper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for guys like Marvin, right? Who the film is clearly, right? Who the film has no respect for, right? He's like Marvin, and then Marvin later has to say, lying, right? Like, oh, I read the papers. No, you don't, Marvin. You don't. We all know you don't read the
Yeah.
papers. Hey, I read the papers. But right, when
Oh.
Grodin says to De Niro, right? Like, were you on my side? Right? When you read about me in the papers, were you on my side? And De Niro says, yes, right? Yes, I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why aren't you now? Because you're in my way, right? This film is so
Yeah.
relevant to right now, right? Because you're literally like De Niro, right? You are in my way, right? So many people, right? Will applaud someone doing the right thing or something good as long as it doesn't cost them anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And here, right? And here, right? De Niro was very clear, right? I got a raw deal. My life's in the toilet. I am entitled to more. And the trick of the film is he is. He actually is entitled to more. He does not deserve the life that he has. So he is going to then take it from someone else who has had a raw deal as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire film is like where we are. I mean, when I'm watching it, right? I'm not consciously, hopefully, he's going to make the right decision in the end because my belief is that this film is going to get there, right? But De Niro doesn't think that, so we have to go on that journey with him, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's wonderful.
Yeah. Agreed. It's definitely a fun ride. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other lines that I really like because there were so many of them. Uh,
When I mean, Grodin's always amazing, right? He's always amazing. Sometimes when I am, if I'm just like, if I want to watch something for a couple of minutes and, I've watched all of my recorded, episodes of, Late Night with Seth Meyers and stuff, I'll YouTube Charles Grodin on Johnny Carson, right? I mean, the guy, I mean, the guy just rules. Right. We all watched The Heartbreak Kid relatively recently.
mhm.
He's fantastic in that. Ishtar. He rules in Ishtar. That movie's a mess. He
I
rules in
never
Ishtar.
saw Ishtar. Well, we have talked about that because that was that my dad had this story about Ishtar. But yeah, no,
Yep.
I don't really have an interest in that. But I mean, he'll
He's
always be the dad in Beethoven to me. Like, and that's just classic.
And the villain, and if you're going to reference that, he's always going to be the villain in the classic, The Great Muppet Caper.
Oh, he's
I
amazing
forgot
in The
about
Great Muppet
that.
Caper.
So good.
Amazing in that film in every way. When Miss Kermit the Frog says to him at the end, right? He says, "Why? Why are you doing this? Like, why? Because I'm the villain." No one
Oh.
gives a line reading like that. Because I'm the villain. Why else would I be doing this? It's amazing. Um, Eugene, what is your from most of the film that you watched, right? What was your take?
I'm loving it. I'm loving it so far. Everything that you guys have said, I agree with. All the one-liners were fantastic. All the one punches I loved.
Oh, that's what I was going to say before. I don't want to cut you off, Eugene, but a lot of concussions in that movie.
So many
True.
from a
Yeah.
single punch. That's what I'm saying. Just hey Marvin, like every time, right? I mean, like to handle, I mean, poor Gronin, right? Just a punch in the face, right? Get him out of the plane, like all the time, just punches, just knock people out. I've never seen anyone in my life be knocked out by a punch, like in person, like maybe in a boxing match, right? But like, but like, it's amazing in this film. It's just secondhand for problem solving, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I just really loved. I don't know. I really loved the dynamic between those two guys, and um, like some of the action scenes were just kind of a little bit long for me, but otherwise, like like I was just there for their dynamics, them talking about the morality and talking about the families, Charles Grodin being annoying to Robert De Niro, like just all of that was fantastic.
So just to be clear, yeah, if we're all picking up on, if everyone else is picking up on this, Eugene didn't finish the film because it was too long. If it was an appropriate length, he would have been prepared.
It
And
was a
and
bit long considering like that time period. I feel like it was like 2 hours and 8 minutes or something. Like that
Yeah,
seems
so I
long
think it's
for the
like 205.
80s.
Yeah, yeah.
Eugene would have preferred if they just stayed on the Amtrak the whole time and had a good heart to heart. That's what I'm
Then that
hearing.
would have been like before sunrise or something. I could have been into that.
Which would have been a more interesting Before Sunrise. I just
Yeah.
80s
Yeah.
Charles Grodin and De Niro talking light
Uh-huh.
politics.
Hmm.
Little My
I
Dinner
know,
Padre.
I know we're jumping around all over the place. Another line reading that is amazing is when Farina says, "Is this more number one? Put more number two on the phone."
Yeah, that's another good one. Well, talking about the action scenes, though, I feel like, see, I can't take action scenes in like the newer movies, like the Marvel, because all I hear is just noise and it's just like boom, 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 boom. And I literally zone out. But these kind of action sequences I can tolerate because there's actually something going on and it seems creative. Like I'm into it. I'm like, what's the helicopter going to do? Who's it going to fall on? Like, oh my God, it could have fallen on Charles Grodin in the water and whatever. So yeah, I hate the way that action scenes have progressed in the past decades because I just can't, I don't know. I don't know what it is because it's just like all I see is movement and sound and I can't even follow what is going on.
Well, that's why the John Wick films were so big because they didn't do that. You got to see the action and you also then got to read about the cost of it. Like why do films not do them like this anymore? Because it's too expensive, right? You're having a wide shot if you're able to
Yeah.
follow these things, right? It's not just about cutting it together. It is about, I mean, one, so, you need a director who would know how to do that. But also you would need the money to be able to get it right or to not do it all right or a lot of it like behind a green screen. The thing that I found actually most frustrating about Black Panther with film that I absolutely love, a scene that is incredibly engaging where you can follow everything that's happening is the casino scene, and then there's a little bit of like there's little moments, a few moments of CGI in there that really stand out and kind of like punch you in the face without like there's a brief there's a little bit of CGI there that's real noticeable, and then one of the fight scenes on the rocks as well, and it just like kind of like takes you out of the film momentarily, but not to I mean
Mhm.
not to diss on a film that is just absolutely wonderful. Another film that brings tears to my eyes.
I felt that Avatar too. The whole movie, all CGI took me out of the entire thing. It's like I can't do the
Yeah, I
CGI.
can't
I
watch
don't know
those
why it
movies.
was
I
so
just
bad for me.
can't. It's too removed, like from anything that I can connect to. Because all I see is like a computer thing. I'm just like, what? I don't know. This isn't even a movie, but I
Are
know
you
people
talking
love
about
it.
Avatar or are you talking about
Yeah,
all
the
like
Avatar movie. Like that's an example of those, but that's probably like the most. like
Yeah.
the big, best example of that maybe. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just like I don't even know what it is. It doesn't feel like a movie to me. It feels like a computer game or something. I know people would disagree and people love
It's
Avatar.
not
And
that
if
I
we
it's
this
not
ever
that
gets
I
aired, people are going to be like,
not it's not it's not that I disagree. Well, first of all, I would say that a lot of people may very well agree with you, right, regarding Avatar. I like those films. I like Cameron. Um, and a lot of people just like Cameron's earlier work and maybe don't like, the Avatar films. I mean, they're both camps. I think that in spite of Avatar is a familiar story, which I also find to be a compelling story. And I think that the action sequence at the end, I'm pretty blown away by. I mean, particularly, I think I love having conversations about great villain deaths. And Stephen Lang has a fantastic death in the first Avatar film.
I agree with Leah. I know I was making a face when she was talking because I was like with you and I'm like, but somebody should like counter what you're saying. But then when you said what you like video computer games or something.
yeah,
Computer game, I was like, oh man,
either one.
we just lost a group right there.
I know.
Lost both groups, video games and
Uh,
computer games.
I mean, I have nothing against those things, but they're different than
No,
movies. Maybe that
Let's
would
see,
be another argument, but
that's like a huge
we're
hot take, right?
alienating we're alienating the Snyderverse. We're alienating people who play computer games, who play video games. We're alienating people who watch most but not an entire film like Eugene. Who I mean
I wouldn't say we're alien. Each of us is alienating different people. So we,
Yes.
we'll balance each other out.
No, but I think on this one, Leah, I think we're all alienating computer game players. We're just
Do they even make computer games anymore? Is this a
well,
thing?
Eugene is a video game player and a computer game player, so he'll tell
yeah,
you.
we're
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me just walk off
Yeah.
the set
Listen,
right
everyone
now
in my
because I've
house
been
plays video
alienated here.
games, so this is the thing that I have to face in my life, and I never thought I'd have. So yeah, I'm always like shitting on video games, but you know,
It's
whatever.
just
I
like as you
understand
say,
there's a world in there.
I agree with you, and I'm on the 100% the same boat. But like as you were saying it, all I saw was like that old like the 1986 like Mac green flashing button, like that.
Right.
But yeah, no, I find Avatar incredibly boring. I tried to rewatch it recently, and I fell asleep like 10 minutes into it. I was like, let me see
Yes,
if I can do
yeah,
it.
I tried to watch whatever the most recent one was, The Water of whatever.
Way of water.
And yeah, I didn't, yeah, after I was like, I'm gonna try. It's nominated for an Oscar, whatever. I got 10 minutes in and I was like, I don't even understand anything that's happening. I'm done. Like I can't, my brain can't process this kind
Yeah.
of content. Yeah, I don't know. It probably is also like I have a deficit in with certain things. Like I was forced, I will give that as a precursor, to watch all of the Lord of the Rings movies. And
Force.
I
That's a joy.
straight up do not remember a single thing or understand anything that was going on. Like maybe I understand a few things, but like it was just a waste of like 10 hours of my life. So my brain just doesn't process it like fantasy. Like I just don't, it doesn't work.
So we gotta
Silly,
watch
silly boys and toys.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. It doesn't work.
Leah's an adult, and I'm like, I mean, if you say, hey, you know what, the Hobbit movies aren't my jam, okay, fine. But those first three Lord of the Rings films, I mean,
Yeah, they're
they're
fantastic.
See, I feel like I
pretty
probably would enjoy
fantastic
The
films.
Hobbit more. I don't know. I guess I can appreciate what it was trying to do, but I just didn't care. Just to
Yeah,
put it
Eugene,
bluntly.
edit that part out. Let's go
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to
yeah. What it was
I'm
trying
sorry.
to
I
do,
know
let's
now
go
we
back
just
to this.
lost a whole
some would argue it
other group of
succeeded.
people.
It wasn't trying; it was successful in doing what it
Okay.
sought out to do.
Let's go back to
I'm
Avatar.
sorry.
Avatar was so boring that I feel like some
Oh God.
sociologist was going to try to write a paper about it being cultural
Well,
appropriation and fell asleep during it.
Oh
this is
wow.
why
I like that
this
analysis.
is why I do not gift Leah Lord of the Rings, right? Although I have debated gifting you one of the Chris Evans Captain America films because I do think that you would
Okay.
actually enjoy the stuff that's going on there.
Okay. Is
But
it one with Scarlett Johansson? Because that's the only thing I can tolerate in those movies, just because I like her
um
as an actress. But
Really,
she's actually she is in a
that would
couple
be
of
the
them.
one.
She's in a
okay.
couple. Yeah, I mean Winter Soldier, but I also think Infinity War has got some real good stuff going on in it. Um,
I think
uh,
I did see Black Widow. Again, I'm forced to do
oh
these things. I
no,
think I
yeah,
saw
that's
Black Widow at a drive-in. It was not, it wasn't
No,
great, but
That's
no,
probably the best way to
it
see
was
it.
it was less than not
okay.
great. Yeah, that's definitely not what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
they pulled you in with the cast, but it
It
was
could have been
Yeah.
great. Yeah, it really could have been if they had if Marvel had chosen to kind of like slow it down real like strip it down, and just let and make a film like in the form of like a Ronin, like you kind of like study Frankenheimer, right? And make a film like that, right? Or watch old Melville films, like seriously, and do something like that. I know most people talk about 3 Days to the Condor, fine, do that too. But and just have like a stripped down spy character piece, particularly with someone like Johansson, who is phenomenal, right? And have the film just
Mhm.
rest on her shoulders. It would have been amazing and a fantastic way to start again, or have like an intercut film in between like Endgame, which ended things, and you have the one Black Widow film, and then you could do it all else you want later. But it was a real opportunity to do something different, and they did not. It was just
Yeah.
another massive CGI fest
Hmm.
that just didn't work. And that's too bad because she deserved a better film, because she is fantastic.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that's something I appreciated about Midnight Run. I mean, this kind of old movies in general, but you can see like it's
Mhm.
all real shots, right? And like,
Yep.
you can see the real stunts too. Like I was pretty impressed with some of the stunts, like airplane, car, uh, you know, rolling down
Hmm.
the river, right? Like
Very
some
much
of those
so.
shots are pretty impressive to
Yeah, all
get.
those police cars when they were like all crashing at different angles on the road, like it was cool. And then in Sedona, like with this
Oh
background, I mean, that
yeah.
was pretty cool. That's definitely not CGI, and
Nope.
they did a good job with the settings.
And the film, I mean, I think the film does slow down when they get into like the desert terrain, right? Very much so. Like the first like 40 minutes moves quite quickly, intentionally so. The music is fast, the scenes are fast, right? They're road tripping pretty quickly, right? And the movie's moving, right? And then for the I would say like after about an hour and 10, an hour after about an hour into the film, like once the helicopter scene happens, right? You still have an hour left, right? And then I would say a good 40 minutes there, right, is them slowly making their way across, right? Hopping freight trains, using cars, um, and a lot of walking, right? They're out in the desert, right? The film does slow down there. And at the same time, though, I don't necessarily mind the I mean, bonding that happens during those scenes, right? And I mean, I understand the comment that, well, the movie does slow down, and therefore I'm thinking about it being a film rather than just like racing with it. Yeah, that is true. Although I don't mind spending time with those two fellas. I mean, there's that scene when they hop the freight. I think it's the freight train, right, where De Niro is checking his watch again, right, and then he tells the full story to Grodin, and Grodin says something like it's like I hope it's a nice coffee shop, Jack, right? Where he talks about you're trading, right? You like whether you however you justify it to yourself, right? You are trading everything you've given up and the one thing you held on to by doing this, no matter how you swing it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the ending, I mean, I just thought it was funny. Not like the ending, but when Marvin, is that his name? That sidekick character or whatever, he
Yeah.
takes the picture and he's like, "Oh, I got, like the whole reveal that it has the towel with the name on it." It's just like so ridiculous.
Yep.
Actually, when we saw that scene, Chris, my boyfriend, was like, "Okay, it says it on the towel, like this is going to play into the way that it gets found out." And he gave me some line from Kubrick where it said something like he said something like if it's shown if there's ever any I don't know, like text shown, then it's always indicates something like, that it's going to come to play at some later point. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And obviously that's how it was discovered. But
Yep, absolutely.
yeah.
Um, I mean, the ending, I find the finale to be the best way I mean, for lack of a better word, spiritual. In that he calls Joey Pants. There's a subtlety to it, almost an eeriness to it. He calls up Joey Pants. He says, "Look, I've got him at the airport, right? And now I'm gonna let him go." And he hangs up the phone, right? And he says, I just wanted to make sure I can make it, right? And then Grodin, right, give him the money, right? Take it. It's a gift. It's a gift. Even the way he says it, it's a gift. I love the way he says it, right? You said you had money. I didn't know you literally had it on you, right? But he hands it to him, and there's this moment where you want more from both of them, but there's no point in there being more, right? De Niro turns and he's gone, right? Grodin's just gone, and that's it. And there's this, and you almost think for a second, you're like, was he ever there at all? It's this weird thing, right? Where like the movie does this weird trick, right? Almost as if Grodin was there the whole time just for De Niro. And that's not true, right? That's clearly not true. Like he's a real person. He went through all of this, right? But there's this idea that he was sent, right, to help De Niro get back on track, right? To get out of the sewer that he's been in. And and then he walks out, and then he walks out into the he talks to the cabbie, right? He's like, hey, do you got change for 1,000? And the guy's like, get out of here, you bum, right? And then it comes slap right back to reality, right? De Niro's like, oh, I guess I'm walking, pops the collar, right? The music's playing, right? Like the movie starts, and then you're smiling out of the theater that this world goes on in this way, right? And that he has a new opportunity, right? But there is that piece where it, right, it starts and ends with him, right? He is our stated protagonist, and there's that little thing it does where for a second you almost ask yourself, like, what, was he really there the whole time? Which is such a silly thing to think. And the movie does that well. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, no, totally. I feel like he's just sort of like a foil for the Robert De Niro character to find himself in a way. Like it could be just like a fable or something. Um, but yeah, I also agree that you kind of want it to keep going. Like you want them to just like hang out and be buds, but this was the purpose of them coming together and now they can separate and move on. But yeah, the fact that the film makes you feel that way is very special, and it's rare that you actually want a movie to continue or that you don't. You're not like, oh God, I'm sick of this already. Like I feel like I kind of felt, I mean, for some of us felt it was too long, but I personally kind of was like enjoying it. There wasn't a moment where I was kind of like, all right, like this movie is getting boring, which I often feel with longer movies, but this kind of worked for me.
Yeah, road trip movies, you're on the road.
Hmm.
Yes, Patrick.
Yeah, so this Midnight Run, of course, is written by George Gallo, and I just want to pull up. I found this interesting interview at the 35th anniversary, where they ask like if he has a favorite uh, favorite scene, and he reveals that the character for Jack and the Duke are based on his mother and father's dynamics, where his father was very emotional and his mom was
Are you
very
serious?
touching. I swear. This is
Wow.
from Cinephile and Beyond because it was what they also reference is that this movie was a direct inspiration to Toy Story. I swear.
Stop it. All right, I'm done now.
And I'm serious. I love that like already we're like 40 minutes in and I'm like have completely destroyed any credibility. And I
Yeah,
would love
that's
to
right.
if you guys think that I'm not both obnoxious and intelligent to be able to like, how can I
So
really
who
pull
from the
this off?
Toy Story team said that?
I'll get to it in a second. I'm just
I
Okay,
had
get to it in a
no
second.
idea this movie was so influential. This is
yeah.
like,
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said,
wow.
I'm pretty sure PTA is on record. Paul Thomas Anderson's on
Yeah.
record for saying it's
Hmm.
one of his favorite films.
Yep. He inspired
Really?
the
Oh, you did
yeah.
tell me that last time. That's what sold me on seeing it. Okay.
He took what's his name? Philip Baker Hall's character's name Sydney and
Yeah,
put it in
Oh,
Heart Eight.
yeah, I think
oh
Hard
my
Eight, right? Yeah, I
God.
think Hard Eight is supposed to be like
This
that
character?
character. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. I had no idea. Well, of course, as soon as I saw Philip Baker Hall, I thought of Magnolia and I thought of PTA, but I didn't realize there was actually a direct connection.
Yeah, when I believe that in his mind that's what he was doing. I don't know how, right? And he's
Interesting.
as Patrick's saying like spoken about it, right? But it's not that like, like it's gotten like the it's if it exists in the Midnight Run universe, it exists
Hmm.
in PTA's mind, in Paul Thomas Anderson's mind
Hmm.
as part of the Midnight Run universe, right?
That's cool. I did not know that.
That's really cool.
Apparently,
And
this is interesting
Hmm.
too. This is I'm doing like some real like unspooled research right now. I feel like
Sure.
Paul here just like pulls off.
Go for it.
Um, but apparently they were considering Robin Williams, but Martin
Hmm.
Brest really was advocating for Charles Grodin to play the role.
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
because
see
and
that
that
working.
Yeah.
because Grodin's perfect, but he doesn't. Most of what I read when Grodin is offered a role, like he has to be fought for.
Hmm.
What was I gonna? There was. Oh, right. I mean, Leah, didn't you inherit a film print of Heart Eight?
I don't think so. I have the original script for Boogie Nights,
Oh, wow.
which is in a very sacred place. But
Good.
yeah, because my dad had gotten that script because Paul Thomas Anderson had met with him to do the sound for Boogie Nights, and
Yep.
it hadn't worked out. My dad didn't want to go to LA and whatever, so he turned it down. But I have the original script, but I don't, and I know that he saw Sydney, like he saw a cut of it, but I don't know that he ever actually had it in his
How many?
possession.
I mean, I would think, and for, obviously people may not know this, please look it up, anyone listening, that Leah's father is Maurice Schell, a quite brilliant and famous sound editor. I would think that quite a few directors over the years had reached out to your father after watching Rumblefish, right? After watching
Hmm.
Scarface, right? Even though your dad was so, edited that film with frustration, right? But I mean, people show scenes from Rumblefish in film classes,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
To
actually,
be
when
like,
I feel like I must have told you this story, but when I was in film school, like briefly, I went to the New York Film Academy for like 6 months or something and made some shorts. But there was one class on sound and they showed all that jazz. And I was like, that was my dad did that. It was like so crazy. Like I couldn't even, I went home and I told him and they were like, why didn't you say like that was my dad? And I was like, I couldn't even process that
how did
that
the
was what they were
professor,
teaching.
why did the professor be like, hey, wait a second, Lee, are you related to Maurice Schell who did the
Right.
sound for this? Like, I would, like, if
Didn't,
I was
right.
teaching that class, I definitely would have asked that question.
Yeah.
I was,
It was a cool moment. I was
I
very
was
proud.
waiting tables and running food out at a Ruby Tuesdays to someone who was in like the to-go section, and their last name was Eisenstein. And I said, "Oh,
Hmm.
like the director." I mean, this is like, like almost like 8 decades after Eisenstein is making films. And they
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, I'm related."
Oh, wow.
Like why? I mean,
That's cool. Right, that you wouldn't put that together. Yeah, I don't even know if the teacher even like remembered my name, like put it together or even knew, what my dad's name was in connection to the film. But yeah, that was a cool moment to discuss. But yeah, he definitely, I'm sure those earlier films, influenced people later on to meet with him. I mean, especially did for the Fosse movies. Like that's how he got Chicago later on because Rob
yeah,
Marshall had known that he worked with Fosse. So
of course. And it's
yeah.
no surprise that and it's no surprise, right, that Paul Thomas Anderson would have kept that would have had that meeting, right? Had likely seen those films and picked up on all of that. And on top of that, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if and maybe this had happened, but Noah Baumbach being um such a big come on, I just watched Snake Eyes, De Palma fan,
Mm.
that he did he ever reach out to your dad?
I don't think so. Yeah, he
That's
never
that's a little
mentioned
surprising
him.
too.
Yeah, because I think he was New York based. I'm pretty sure he lived in New York. So that would have been, yeah, didn't he grow up in New York because he made that movie, The Squid and the Whale, about his
Yeah.
childhood in Brooklyn? Yeah.
Yep.
Um, yeah, no, he never mentioned Noah Baumbach, but yeah, that's a good
And
point.
maybe Baumbach's films weren't looking for sound like the kind of sound that your father captures, right? Like,
Maybe.
yeah, because your dad worked on a lot of big budget films, and I know he worked on small
Hmm.
films too, but Baumbach was maybe more small scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder who did his movies or, because I assume he would work in New York, but it's probably somebody that my parents knew, but I'm not sure. But yeah.
Um, Wait, okay, Patrick. So where's that Toy Story quote that you said you're going to say
Yeah.
for us?
I'm looking it up right now. Um, Andrew Stanton. Does anybody know who that is? Can somebody Google the name Andrew
Are you
Stanton? I'm
serious? Are you
sorry.
serious? Are you serious?
I mean,
Is this supposed to be somebody that we all know?
Are you joking right now? Is this part of like your bit?
you mean part of my bit that is my bit of
Uh,
research?
You do not know who Andrew Stanton is.
Apparently AI says there's a guy named Andrew Stanton, and Andrew Stanton said he's inspired by Midnight Run. I don't
well,
know what
I
that
don't
is.
know who he is either, and I just looked him up, and
He's probably
apparently
like a P.
he's
He was probably like a PA for Pixar back in the day.
All right, we all know Patrick thinks he's funny now.
He
I'm a
doesn't think
John
I'm
Carter.
funny.
I'm a John Carter defender. Um,
I mean, American filmmaker and voice actor. I'm seeing Finding Nemo in all
No,
these
no,
films.
Leah,
Is this
please.
a different
Leah,
person?
you're walking into his trap, Leah.
Oh God.
He's
Stanton,
in on the bit
Stanton,
now with me.
Stanton
All
has won
right.
two. He has won two Oscars already.
Academy
He-
Awards.
He was one of the founding. He was one of the founding members of Pixar, right? He was part of the creative team for all the earlier films. Then he directed Finding Nemo, won his first Oscar. Directed Wall-E, won his second Oscar. Then got the opportunity to make a feature film, directed John Carter, which made lost more money than any other film. John Carter, John Carter is a bit of a mess, and it is also awesome. Like I'm a massive defender of that film. It is one of those large,
I'm sorry.
messy films.
I don't want to cut you off, but I do. Like Michael's like Andrew Stanton. You don't know Andrew Stanton, John Carter. And he like starts with John Carter. This is the essence of this podcast. John Carter,
Oh,
and then he like goes all the way around to all the things that we would go, and he goes back to, like John Carter. It's a bit of a mess. Okay, guess we could edit out the whole John Carter bit. Movie that 5 people saw and got like a 2 stars by Newsday.
Newsday. You're
Newsday is as relevant
you're
as mentioning
acknowledging
John Carter.
your age and that you grew up on Long Island.
How do you guys even remember these factoids? This is
He
what I
doesn't.
don't
First of all,
understand.
Patrick has no idea what Newsday what review John
Just
Carter got
popping out of
on
your mouth. You're
Newsday.
just saying random things.
He is.
Hey, I read the papers.
Yeah. Well, I had no idea who this person was, and I will not remember it after today.
Andrew Stanton. It's the birth name of the Yankees DH.
Oh God. I mean, good for him. It sounds like he's done some things, but
Yeah. So and he wouldn't have done any of those things. What we understand right now is he wouldn't have accomplished any of those if not for the film Midnight Run.
Midnight Run.
He'd
Well,
probably be doing
that
little
really came
sketches.
full circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe we wouldn't even have Paul Thomas Anderson without this movie.
Thank you for saying it.
There
I
you
go.
wanted you to say it because I know how, but we're all thinking it. It just
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like Paul Thomas Anderson is just constantly trying to recreate Midnight Run.
Yeah. I mean, it's his origin story, really, is what I got out of this conversation.
It is. Paul Thomas Anderson just watched this movie 5,000 times. Like, how can I do it? Which is like that. That's not even a criticism. I feel like that's like didn't like Springsteen wrote Born to Run just like by trying to like get. Or I'm messing this whole thing up, but it's, I feel like great songs are written for people trying to recreate the Beatles or Roy Orbison or something like that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So this is where we go. Midnight Run, the unsung hero of modern day Hollywood.
Apparently.
Indeed, that's the tagline.
Yeah, there you go. Midnight Run, the unsung hero of modern day Hollywood. I think, obviously we all enjoyed the film. Obviously I brings a tear to my eye, find it to be a bit of a classic and a masterpiece. One-liners,
Michael, not just you. You don't feel like you need to qualify it. The first line in the article I was reading in my extensive research was, after 35 years, this movie, the end still brings tears to my eyes. So
Yeah.
you're not alone in this. I just the part that made me cry was when he sees his daughter.
Yeah. 100%. That definitely does it for me. Everything about those scenes, right? And then everything about that scene and right, her coming out and him, right, as you said, Patrick, not being, it's fantastic when he is unable to, right, take the money. Like, that is out of the question. Like, the idea that this guy still there's consistently a line, right?
Can I
that's
say
one.
this too? One piece, and I don't know if this is gonna take us into another place or if it's gonna die right when I say it. The film is often described as a screwball comedy. I don't know if I would say it's a screwball comedy, but I think knowing that people describe it as a screwball comedy, we have to at least give credit to the score of one Danny Elfman, on
Yeah.
the precipice of his most pertinent films and sounds. Right, like this is you when you listen to it, you wouldn't. I didn't realize Danny Elfman did the score until I watched it this go around, and then I was like, oh. Every once in a while, when like the music kicked up, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. This has a little bit of like a counter to what's going on. It's like a little silliness to some of the seriousness of the scene.
I think it's amazing. Like, if this movie, like if this score was on vinyl, it's not. I would have bought it like long ago. It had like a run on vinyl when it first came out, but I'm sure it's on eBay for a couple $100. The movie rules. What's has anyone watched anything this week? Like what has everyone been watching? Just out of curiosity.
Well, A Real Pain, we both saw. Did you see it this week, Patrick?
Yeah, yeah. So this, I actually, when did I watched it like right after we talked last week? So like Sunday or Monday, like Monday morning, I finished it. I started like Sunday night and finished it Monday morning. And I just absolutely loved it. Like it was like again, Leah, to echo what you were saying before, felt like real life people. I really
Hmm.
connected with the characters just being humans in this world, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved all the side characters too, like that guy, the one who had also gone through, he had gone through a genocide. Like I loved that addition to the story. Like it was what a smart move to add somebody like that in as like a counterpoint to the Holocaust and his perspective on it. Like I just thought it was really beautiful.
Yeah. And it felt like it made sense like the when you hear about like Holocaust tours, that's that group is the group that I would envision going on it, you know, like in it
Hmm.
just felt honest. Like it didn't seem like contrived in any way.
Yeah.
Not yet. I'm waiting
Yeah,
for
did
the
you see
physical.
it,
No, it's
Michael?
fine. I'm waiting for I don't mind
Oh,
at
okay.
all.
So I don't want to talk
I'm
about it
waiting
too
for the
much.
physical media release to I think it's coming out in like a week or two. And then every few months Target does a sale, buy two, get one free. And then I'll probably pick it up then.
Okay.
Boycott Target.
Yeah.
Target until they reinstate their
So
DEI policies. Yeah. The official position of the podcast. No, Eugene. Eugene's waving me off. He's really pro the rollback of DEI
and you know
initiatives.
all these things that you're
Eugene,
saying
come
right now,
on.
it's just extra work for Eugene to edit out.
Yeah, he's gonna have to cut this
Um
all out because then we're gonna be censored by you know who.
Michael's like saying everybody
I'm
shop
not
at
saying everybody
Target. I
shop
don't
at
want to
Target.
be.
I
I
was
don't want to
saying
get
only shop
canceled
at
before.
Target where it benefits you, the consumer, rather than the big business Target itself.
Hmm.
Jack Walsh
Uh-huh.
would not shop at Target right now for 33% off of a
I
4K.
my Substance came in the mail. I was very excited. My 4K copy of the Substance came in, but the slipcover was messed up. So I'm waiting for. I gotta it's the first run, like it's sold out. So I've got to wait for people to get it back in stock. I'll get it by like mid-February when Conclave comes in. I'll watch both of those. But I watched. What did I watch? I watched a lot of silly stuff. I mean, stuff that I really enjoyed. I watched The Faculty. I
Like the
The
watched.
faculty,
faculty.
like from the
Yeah, from the 90s.
2000s
Yeah, I had a
or
blast. I had a
whatever.
blast
No,
rewatching
you
it.
cannot say that you had a blast watching the faculty. It's so annoying. I wish we could. Eugene, go back to recorded conversations we had like 5 years ago when him and I watched the faculty in a Halloween movie weekend, and he was like, "This movie's so annoying." Like he was like dumping on the movie. He was like
I
saying,
had so much I had a blast rewatching it. I really did. And I rewatched it thinking to myself, oh, Patrick will be so annoyed if he hears me talk about how much I've enjoyed watching it this go around. It just got released in 4K and I was watching it over the course of 2 nights and I had a really great time. Elijah Wood and Josh Hartnett. I was just having a great time with the two of them.
"Yeah, because
Like just
you just
Yeah, I
have like
miss those movies.
we watched it, Leah. We watched it a couple years ago, and he
Okay.
completely like just threw me under the bus as being like, "Oh, this is the movie Patrick loved." Yeah, when I was 16, I loved it, and it's
Right.
nostalgic. And
Those were
it,
like the teen movie era, like when there was all those actors were all in these movies. I miss those days.
yeah,
They were fun movies. I mean, they were
yeah,
meant for us as
they were.
teens.
You would go see
Yeah.
those movies. Like I saw The Faculty in a theater,
Hmm.
like Islip, the Village of Islip theater that was like run down, and there was like 30 of us, like from my school that went there, and we were that was it. That was the audience, and we just like took over, and were able to have the freedom to like yell at the screen and throw popcorn, and it was like fun. It
Oh
was like
yeah.
a very real Americana.
Right. As long as you were the only ones in the theater, because otherwise I was gonna say that
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
is
No.
I'm sure it was
Well,
only fun for you.
no, yeah, there weren't any, but like I feel like that was pretty well secured. It was like a pretty,
Mm,
it was a dying theater. There was a lot of people going to that theater, except for
okay.
the crew.
yeah, I saw it at a real multiplex when I went to go see it.
Yeah,
Mm.
Um, let's. I watched The Faculty. I watched Venom: The Last Dance. Which have you been forced to watch that yet, Leah?
I watched the first one in the theater with
Oh,
my
the first
boyfriend.
one, the
Yeah.
first one in the
Oh, the
theater.
first one. How many have there been? This
three.
There have
is,
been three. I
I
think you may have
think
seen the
maybe it was the
second one.
second one. No, it was the second one. Yeah, it was the
Yeah, yeah.
second one.
The first one is a little bit easier to swallow
I
than
think I
the
also saw the
second one.
first one, but not in the theater. But yeah, I was forced to see those two, and then I was told that it went south. The second one was bad, I was told. I mean, I'm no judge of this, so I was like, it is what it is. And then so the third one I was not forced to see.
Okay. It was weird. It was just really weird. The stuff between Tom Hardy and Venom was kind of fun. And the finale was like a CGI fest, but it was so weird that I kept thinking to myself while watching it, how did they come up with this story? And why this story? That I was just compelled the
Hmm.
entire time watching it by being so befuddled and engaged. Not that I'm recommending it.
Okay.
Though I do love my 4K Steelbook.
Was Michelle
I went to see
Williams
it,
in it?
and then I watched. No, Michelle Williams is
Yeah, that's
not even
another
mentioned
reason
in it.
not to see it because that was the only reason I even, entertained the possibility of seeing the others. I was like, well, Michelle Williams, I have to see everything she's in. So I was going to see it anyway. But probably I used to do that with actors that were in those movies where I'd fast forward through all the scenes they weren't in and I'd just watch the scenes they were in because I was like, well, I have to see it as part of their filmography, but like I can't stomach the rest of it, which is probably sacrilege to the movie, but
Well,
I
speaking
did.
of which, did we ever talk about Fablemans? Did you see Fablemans?
Yes, I did. I don't think we have talked about it. But yeah,
Well, yeah. What
I
did you think of
mean, you know
Fablemans?
how I feel about Spielberg.
Oh, oh,
I mean,
oh,
he's
just
fine. I just don't
oh my
understand why everyone's
fine.
obsessed with him. So,
Because he's the greatest filmmaker who ever lived.
see, I would disagree with that notion. That's
Did you
exactly why.
have you ever seen E.T.? Like actually watched
Okay,
E.T.?
I love E.T. Of course, I've
Okay.
seen E.T. I was a child once. No, I love E.T. E.T. is probably my favorite Spielberg movie. I mean, I'd have to
And
look at his filmography, but yeah,
when was the last time you saw Jaws?
I've never seen Jaws and I never will because I'll never go in the ocean again. Just
So
seeing,
that
how
so
at the
that
beginning
that
of
makes
VHSs, they'd have like the trailers, and you couldn't
yeah.
even fast forward. Like I would
Yep.
literally hide my face when Jaws, but I would hear the music and I would just like become terrified. I just can't do that to
You
myself.
have you seen Bridge of Spies yet?
Yes, I like Bridge of Spies, but again, it's just like a Spielberg movie. It's just
But it's
big
like a
and
Spielberg
dramatic
movie.
and emotional, and the music and all
Gosh.
the things.
And the music. Wait, you mean like a
Yeah,
movie? Big dramatic
but
You mean
it's
like a
too
movie?
much of all of those things. It's not subtle. That's why I don't like Spielberg. He's not subtle. I
Not
have
subtle,
seen,
like Requiem for a Dream.
right. You know what? But
Or like Naked. Naked's not subtle either.
mm,
Naked,
It's
like
in the
I actually
title.
think
sure.
I actually think that at some point in that film, he reached out and punched me in the face when
Oh my
watching Naked.
God. All right. I guess I don't know. I just feel like it's like too obvious. I mean, Bridge of Spies isn't the greatest example of that because I thought that was a good movie.
and
It's
and it was and it was
yeah.
pretty subtle. Like there are that movie is it's when you if you want to talk about like a morality tale, right? Like when the way that Hanks is framed in that film, the way that he's talked about in that film, this like the story of like the standing man, right? Like I think that not I think I mean I believe that Spielberg really well I think he's gone through a number of phases in his career as a director, but he makes some pretty dark films.
Yeah.
And in those films there can be light. But a lot of those films like the AI era are quite dark. I think War of the Worlds is one of the best 9/11 movies that exists.
Interesting.
Leo, did you say you saw Jurassic Park?
Yes, I saw it very recently. This is another movie that just I skipped over in my childhood, but yeah, saw like maybe in the past 2 years or 3 years.
Movie rules.
It was good. I mean, Jeff Goldblum. See, there's has to be certain things that like sell me on movies like that. If it weren't for Jeff Goldblum, I probably would have fallen asleep earlier than I did watching that movie.
Oh,
But,
fell asleep watching Jurassic Park. Eugene, cut
I
it,
just
cut it.
yeah,
Wait, why do
this
you hate?
is
Can
I'm
you say
just
this
being
again?
honest.
Why
This
do you
is who I
hate?
am.
Why do you hate Laura Dern?
I love
Yeah, no,
Laura
I'm curious.
Dern.
Why do you hate
Okay,
Joy?
now I have a hard time with Joy, I'll be honest.
That's
Yeah, that's
a
probably, I
softball
think you just
question,
cut to the
perhaps.
core. You just cut right to the core of my problem with Spielberg is because it's too earnest. You talked about earnest, being earnest
Oh,
last
I
time.
I love the possibility. I think we have a lack of earnestness in reality these days. Older films are earnest. I mean, like I mean the or films of the 50s, right? Like before New Hollywood, right? Films were earnest. And I think that one, I love New Hollywood, right? But I think the takeaway from New Hollywood for a lot of folks is that this is real, right? Well, earnestness is real too. right? This idea that if you're an idealist, you're a fool, right? And that kind of thinking maybe brings us to the present.
I mean, you make a good point.
There's a really great moment when after Leah mentioned Jeff Goldblum that Michael did like a little Jeff Goldblum, I wouldn't say like impression, but like an homage to Jeff Goldblum in his
Oh
whole
yeah.
earnestness defense. Which I agree.
No,
But
there
it's
were
like
some good
Andrew,
actors in that. I'll give it that.
yeah.
I mean, right? Sam Neill, was it that? Sam Neill?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sam Neill rules in
And
that movie
Laura
where
Dern
where
is
he
great,
torments
obviously.
that kid in the beginning of the film,
Right.
he's like, "How about you have some respect?"
Yeah. And it was
It's
fun. I
amazing.
enjoyed Jurassic Park, but I think like when you're talking about, yeah, the earnestness, I do have a hard time with earnestness in movies, which is my deficit. It's like I'm like rebelling against something. I don't know. I just can't. It doesn't feel like honest to me to what the world feels like, which seems darker to me. But I can appreciate that Spielberg is trying, and there's nothing wrong with him. I don't dislike him. They're just not my favorite movies.
I would not that I'm not pressing this on you. I would be incredibly curious your thoughts on Jaws because that film is like unbelievably brilliant, and it is right like as you said like you'd be afraid to watch like it is a scary movie, right?
Yeah.
From top to bottom, like even the stories, Robert Shaw telling a story in that film. There's a scene where he tells a story, and it is scarier than anything that you see.
Mm.
When I was teaching a film class with some buddies of mine, it was in an after school program, and there's a scene that takes place on a beach, and then there's a horrific moment that happens, and the students started getting chatty,
Mm.
and my buddy was about to like to discipline them, and I said just wait because I knew that scene was coming. The scene happens 5 seconds later. The entire room got so quiet because the students are watching in horror, and, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I believe
The
it. That's
what
why I really can't see it. Like it will destroy me. I really don't think I'll ever swim again.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for it for that reason, but it is right a piece of brilliance. And the fate what I mean look, I love the Fablemans. I loved West Side Story. I thought both of those films were brilliant. I love this new chapter where it was actually my biggest problem with Killers of the Flowers Moon. I had a massive problem with Killers of the Flowers Moon. Um, for a variety of reasons, particularly having read the book. And I'm often not one of those people like, oh, you read the book and why aren't you holding to it? But it seemed that in these last few years, right, Spielberg is actively taking these films, right, and talking about our present moment. And Killers of the Flower Moon was an opportunity for Scorsese to do that, to talk about the value of, right? I mean, because the film is about the creation, right, of the FBI, right? And you have lawlessness, right? In an area where the state condoned the lawlessness, right? And then the federal government comes in and says, no, 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 right? That's literally like the only time that happened. This FBI agent, comes in there, right, and unravels this thing, and is the only one to do so,
Hmm.
right? And that person takes a back seat in the film, right, and who was one of the primary characters in the text, and instead they make a sociopath, right, who murders his wife's family, right, the center of it,
Yeah. Well, that's
right?
classic
DiCaprio,
Scorsese. I mean, he loves a sociopath and he likes anyone
yes,
that
he
commits
does.
violence. So,
Right. 100% correct. And they were literally going to make the film, right, of the Clemens character, and DiCaprio in all of his wisdom goes to Scorsese and says, I don't want to make another white savior movie. So let's make a film
oh
about,
God.
right, this
Did
let's
this
make a
really
film
happen?
about. Yes, this really happened. They were going to make that
Hmm.
film, right? Like a film based on the actual book.
Yeah.
And when you read this, David Grann wrote a brilliant book. And when you read that book, it is quite remarkable that these things happened and that this character existed, the one that
Hmm.
Clemens ends up playing, and it's only a fraction of him in the film, but when you read his full story, it is
Yeah.
remarkable.
Well, I
Like what
did read
he,
the book because you gifted it to me with all the
well,
DVDs from last
well,
year, and I loved the book. I thought it was
yes,
incredible, and I agree completely that, yeah, Clemens's character was like an afterthought in the movie, and they sort of like flipped the main characters around, and it didn't feel like the or the book at all. Yeah, I mean, I thought it
and
was a decent movie, but yeah, it didn't really capture the energy of the book, which was really like an expose.
yep. Yeah, no, I agree, and like so like Scorsese could have done what a wonderful moment in 2023 to make a film about the power of a centralized federal government to intervene on the welfare of the people, right? What a remarkable time to emphasize the value of that in a moment when that was actively being spoken about deconstructing. And instead they threw it all out the window.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of thing that Spielberg actually had been doing for a number of his films, right? Lincoln did that, right?
Hmm.
There were many parallels to what's going on in that moment. Obviously, more pointed on the nose. The Post did that, right? I would argue West Side Story did that, right? And Scorsese just, and I love many of Scorsese films, and obviously that film is just when you watch it, it is that Kills the Flower Moon is in many ways is a miracle. And there's so much in that film that's just remarkable. Yet they chose, I would argue, the wrong story to tell.
Hmm.
Because it's not her story.
Right.
It's not Clemens's story. It is DiCaprio's story, which is beyond me, right? To talk, and also the primary character, right? She in the book has so much agency,
Hmm.
so much agency, right? She takes a trip to DC and speaks to the president to advocate for her family. And in the film, she's in bed half the movie.
Right.
Like she's just in bed.
Yeah, she's a side character too. It's all just about DiCaprio being a sociopath or whatever, he is, because that's what Scorsese's into.
Well, yeah, and to that point, like when and DiCaprio's quote, "I don't want to make another white savior movie." When has DiCaprio or Scorsese made a white savior movie? And how about they go like, "Hey, how about we stop making these white sociopathic movies that these, incels hero worship?"
Right. Why is that better? Like to make, yeah, and that's all they make. I mean, I'm trying to think of what, like Blood Diamond, was that a white savior? Like, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of like what movies he's even
Maybe
referring
that's your
to.
typical like Zwick, and I look, I enjoyed Blood Diamond when it came out. Like Zwick's the kind of director where you kind of applaud him for effort. He's in that, and studio film like that was entertaining at the time. Maybe now we'd find it. I don't know. I enjoyed it when it came out, but right,
Hmm.
like that was my first thought too, Leah. Like when does DiCaprio played a character that maybe you would reference in that way, and maybe that's it. But at the same time, right? Maybe I think Zwick was trying to work against that even before it became a thing, white savior.
Right.
So it played more it played more like a two-hander in that right. Jaimin Hunsu was actively had a significant role in saving his own child, and the DiCaprio character's role was to confront, right, his former boss, right, like in,
Right.
in like that. So like they kind of like they made, of course, DiCaprio the protagonist, right, but it was more personalized, right, like an Africana after like a white South African after
Hmm.
facing off, like, squaring off against another white South African. I think they were South African in that film. And then you had the Jaimin Hunson character, right? Say,
Hmm.
saving his son.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, if those are the only two lenses you could tell a story through, maybe don't tell that story.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the DiCaprio movies of late, like since Django Unchained. I feel like that was the first movie that I thought like he was actually good in many years. And since then, I feel like he's always played the villain, which is much more interesting as an actor. Like I appreciate him more as an actor recently, but I don't know. They're all bad guys, or they're all like these sort of sociopathic people, I feel like. So I don't know. I feel like that's now his type. So I don't know why he thinks that's different than like being, or that's better than showing a movie about somebody that's actually doing good. And it's historical. I don't know. Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm not a DiCaprio fan as I once was in the Titanic days.
Yeah, that'll be a common theme if he ever comes up. I don't think I've
Yeah.
gifted you any films with DiCaprio in them, actually.
Oh, actually, you gave me Catch Me If You Can because I just found it
Yeah.
all wrapped
Oh,
up, which was probably another very early one. Like,
yeah.
I don't even know if
And
that's
again,
on the
love that movie.
list because there may have been ones that I like didn't even find when I made that list
This
because
is
I
me
found
trying
it,
to
but did you see it? Did you?
sell Spielberg on you.
yes, I did see it when it came out. So, right, and that's also Spielberg, so there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
Which is why it's
that makes sense.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Dude, have you seen? I'm just going through the Spielberg canon in
Hmm.
my head. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No, I haven't seen any of the Indiana Jones movies. I may have been again forced recently to see one or I don't know, maybe the first one, and it didn't. I may have seen it through, but again, I don't really remember because those kind of movies just like go in and then go out.
We gotta. I think we have to
I
unwrap
don't know.
Raiders
Oh God,
at some
I don't
point.
Well,
know if I
As
can.
my
I am
son
curious
gave a
which one.
fantastic review of it.
No, I'm curious which one. I mean, that you
I'll
if
have
you
to
did
find
watch the
out.
first one,
I'll report
and
back.
I mean, did you was he being chased by a big boulder in the first 10
I
minutes?
don't remember. This is the problem. This
Wow.
is what I'm saying. I don't, this like
It doesn't
doesn't,
count. It
doesn't
doesn't count as
stay
a
with
watch.
me.
Yeah, we can
God.
say that. We can say she just hasn't watched
If
it.
my brain is dead when I'm watching it, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
if
mean,
I'm
and these are
assigned
films.
to it, I will watch it with a different
Yeah, I don't think I would. I mean, that's not the purpose of this, right? To make you watch films where
torture
you're
me.
actively like like the films are films that where there's thought that you may actually enjoy them.
I appreciate that.
Unwrapped Finally is hosted by Michael Lavalio, Leah Shell, and Patrick Lavalio. Produced by me, Eugene Mock. Thanks for listening. See you next time.